them imported from the countries that have taken on phosphate. A long way from the future now is what was promised. Even in 1962, it was understood that phosphate mining would have a big impact on life on the island.
Although the phosphate industry will continue for 30 or 40 years on Nauru, preparations are being made now for the future of the Nauruan people.
This film was made by the Australian Department of Intelligence. It was held at the National Film and Sound Archive of Australia.
Australia has offered them a permanent nursery in her own shore. Final choice will lie with the Nauruans themselves. Wherever they may decide to take it, the future lies with the children. They will benefit from the preparations being made now. Their prospects are bright, and future secure.
Those bright prospects and secure future were formulated by the Australian government into an offer to relocate the entire population to a small island on the coast of Queensland. Cheaper it seems to move an entire nation to Australia than make good the colossal damage done by phosphate mining. But in 1964, the Nauruans said no. They did not want to. This follows a recent period of public health disasters, dust extremes, the general trend in many Pacific islands. On almost every island, diets have shifted over the last half century, from fish and local fruit and vegetables to ultra-processed foods we talked about often being treated, high in sugar, salt, oils, and fats, and all the additives that we calculate and that super in addition, Nauru and many other islands have dumping grounds for fossil fuels not considered natural in the United States, Australia, and New Zealand, such as turkey tails and mudflats, leeks, salmon, or about 50% of the There are many recordings and seismic tests by the Olinda System, which is studying the seasons on the Pacific Islands.
The technology seems to lead the way on how you build it. If you look at in any given country, probably you're looking at least half of the adult population having obesity, which means that having a body mass index or a weight from height that is above the 50, so means that they will have obesity. So
The problem is facing the Pacific Islands due to genetic predisposed weight. According to Dr. John Bailey, one of those is
there's a lot more still to do in the space of understanding the role that genetics plays. But whatever role it does play, it is in the minority compared to these social and structural factors that Pacific Island nations are facing. Those things, those environmental factors, are also obviously much easier to address than what is going on at this level.
Samoa first introduced the sugar tax in 1994, considering more Pacific nations following
Trade border for imports of EU food and farm produce. From midnight on Wednesday, expensive veterinary health certificates will be required on most consignments of meat, fruit and veg entering the country. While they will not actually be checked for another 3 months, it is the start of a significant change, reversing the free flow of such produce since the establishment of the EU single market. The government acknowledges it will push up food prices a little and the overall level of inflation by 0.2% over 3 years. Some food suppliers have expressed concern about significant delays, shortages of specialist freight drivers, and an impact on the availability and price of food. There is also concern that the government has not told importers how much they will be charged for the new checks. Ministers say they will soon confirm that many food imports, for example cucumbers, are of low or no risk and can continue to avoid new checks.
The Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, has warned that Rishi Sunak's Rwanda deportation plan undermines the UK's global standing. He was speaking as peers began debating the bill designed to ensure some asylum seekers can be sent to Rwanda. The Prime Minister has urged the Lords not to block what he called the will of the people by voting down the legislation. As our political correspondent, Peter Saul.
The will of
debates
the
and votes in
people.
the House of Commons were causing enough for the government. Around 60 Conservative MPs tried but ultimately failed to change the Safety of Rwanda bill. The legislation has now made it to the Lords, where there is more widespread opposition. Opening the debate on behalf of the government, Lord Stewart said concerns raised by the Supreme Court have been addressed.
The rule of law partnership we have signed with Rwanda is a partnership to which we and Rwanda are both completely committed. This bill, along with the treaty, puts beyond legal doubt the safety of Rwanda.
He also insisted that ministers were satisfied that Britain would still comply with its international obligations. Many peers begged to differ. The Archbishop of Canterbury argued that the bill would damage the UK's reputation around the world.
Others on these benches will say more about international and domestic law, human rights and constitutional impact. I will simply say that a pick-and-choose approach to international law undermines our global standing.
The Tory grandee, Ken Clarke, had given his backing to the Rwanda policy, but told the Red Benches that he couldn't support this bill unless it was substantially amended. Peers will try to make changes in a fortnight's time before potentially sending the bill back to the Commons. Tonight, though, a Liberal Democrat attempt to kill off the legislation entirely seems destined to fail due to a lack of support from Labour. The government's plan is likely to take a step forward then, but there are parliamentary battles aplenty still to come.
The Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove has accused Scottish ministers of diverging on policy during the pandemic to advance their political agenda for independence. Mr Gove, whose role at the time was liaison with devolved administrations, also rejected suggestions that the UK government was playing politics during the pandemic. He was speaking to the UK COVID inquiry, which is currently sitting in Edinburgh. Scotland's former Health Secretary John Freeman has also been giving evidence. Scotland correspondent Lorna Gordon has been at the inquiry. The Red Cross Nicola Sturgeon has been guilty of jumping the gun by announcing a ban on mass gatherings in Scotland in March 2020 after confidential talks involving the UK government. We believe this had irritated the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson and led to concerns that the Scottish government could be trusted. Mr Gove said protecting the public from COVID is the overall motivation of senior Scottish politicians, but that sometimes they would seek to advance their political agenda.
While I have no respect for the integrity and professionalism of Scottish government ministers when it came to the handling of individual pandemic cases, we have to bear in mind that the political aim of the SM is to destroy the United Kingdom, and from time to time they will make political points of that.
The inquiry was also shown a confidential UK cabinet paper, which included polling that suggested there were much higher approval ratings for the Scottish government's handling of the pandemic compared with Westminster's. It stated the UK government needed to make the case for the Union. Mr Gove defended comments which Boris Johnson made on a visit to Scotland 2 days later, when he spoke of the might and merits of the United Kingdom. In her evidence, Scotland's then Health Secretary Jean Freeman conceded her government's response to protecting people in care homes wasn't as adequate as it could have been, and that she would regret this for the rest of her life. Half of all deaths in Scotland in the first wave of the pandemic were in care homes. Ms Freeman said there had been no easy choices. The Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva has been given a 4-year ban for doping after initially being cleared. A Russian investigation found the teenager was not at fault after she failed a test in the run-up to the Beijing Winter Olympics in 2022. But the Court of Arbitration for Sport has now upheld an appeal. Our sports news correspondent Laura Scott has the details.
Kamila Valieva began the Beijing Games as a figure skating prodigy, becoming the first woman to land a quadruple jump, doing so helping Russia's team win gold. But just before the medal ceremony, news of the then 15-year-old's positive test for a banned heart drug emerged, and she became embroiled in a major doping scandal. Nearly 2 years on, the Court of Arbitration for Sport has ruled the teenager was not able to prove on the balance of probabilities that she had taken the substance unintentionally. The World Anti-Doping Agency welcomed the decision, but the head of the US Anti-Doping Agency, Travis Tygart, said that the system had failed athletes, including Valieva herself.
How does a young girl at that age get a hold of this controlled drug? You have to look at the Russian system. Here we go again, 420 victim by the hijacking games at the expense of a young woman.
The International Skating Union is now expected to disqualify the results for Beijing that involve Valieva. Only then can the medals be handed out for this event, which has long been dogged by controversy.
In the city, the 100 share index ended the day down 2 points at 7,633. On Wall Street a short time ago, Dow Jones was up 24 points at 38,085. On the currency markets, the pound is trading at $1.26.8. Against the euro, sterling is at €1.17.3. Against the euro worth 85.3 pence. Japan's Moonlander has begun working again. It was shut down for a week because of a power supply problem. Craft called Slim had ended up on its nose when it touched down 9 days ago, which meant its solar panels were facing the wrong way. From Tokyo is Shana Khalil.
Worldwide, said the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency on social media after re-establishing contact with their Moonlander. The agency, also known as JAXA, indicated that the glitch in communication had been fixed. JAXA said the solar panels of the smart lander for investigating the moon, or SLIM, are working again after a shift in lighting conditions allowed them to catch the sunlight. In another social media post, JAXA shared a photograph taken by SLIM of a nearby rock nicknamed the Toy Poodle, because that's what it looks like. The lander will analyze the composition of rocks in its search for clues about the origin of the moon. The probe touched down on January the 20th, but soon after, the agency said that problems with the craft's solar batteries meant they were not generating power, as the solar cells pointed away from the sun. JAXA could not immediately say how long SLIM would operate on the moon. It's previously said the lander is not designed to survive a lunar night, when the surface of the moon gets no sun for about 14 days.
Joni Mitchell performed for the first time at the Grammy Awards ceremony in Los Angeles this weekend, almost 9 years after a near-fatal illness left her having to relearn how to walk and play the guitar. The singer and songwriter only recently returned to performing, as our entertainment correspondent Colin Patterson reports.
Joni Mitchell first won a Grammy in March 1970 when Clouds was named Best New Performance. This Sunday, almost 54 years later, and at the age of 80, she is going to make her Grammys debut as a performer, lineup including Billie Eilish, Dua Lipa, and the Nigerian Afro-fusion star Burna Boy. This is Joni Mitchell's latest step in a remarkable comeback after suffering a brain aneurysm in 2015, which left her having to learn to walk again. Music played a huge part in her recovery. Joni Jams taking place in her Laurel Canyon home, organised by the singer Brandi Carlile. To the likes of Elton John, Paul McCartney and Herbie Hancock, come and play reunion. By 2022, she was well enough to go on stage at the Grammys after winning Best Historical Album. This time, acceptance speech included a special mention for someone crucial to her rehabilitation.
So being here, who is my physical therapist, and she's my angel.
Later that year, she performed in public for the first time since her aneurysm as a surprise guest at the Newport Folk Festival. And a live album of that concert was nominated for Best Folk Album at the Grammys, so she could win again as well as play. Although one interesting point of note, Joni Mitchell isn't the oldest person in that category. She's up against Paul Simon, who's 82.
The headlines again. The United States has warned of a very consequential response to a drone strike in Jordan that killed 3 American troops. Iran insists it was not involved in the attack, which was carried out by a militant group it supports. Rishi Sunak has defended his proposed ban on disposable vapes, saying he's taken strong action to stamp out their use by children. Families of 3 people stabbed to death in Nottingham last June have met the Prime Minister, called for a public inquiry into the attacks. 2 more people have been arrested in connection with the fatal stabbings of 2 teenage boys in Bristol. The King and the Princess of Wales have returned home after treatment in hospital. BBC News.
I'm Nicholas Lewis. Tonight's newsreader is just events in just a minute. BBC Radio 4, but not as
Would Dracula be as devious in the modern world?
on social media.
Yeah, profile picture of the operates exposed. What's the billionaire Swedish furniture maker really a penny torture? Stingy was fine. I think the kids who's afraid of a retailer.
It's one thing to be the homewrecker, but like, don't cheat local.
I'm Russell Kane, an evil genius is back. Along with some comedians, we decide whether historical icons are totally evil or bona fide genius.
I believe he is evil, but that doesn't make him less sexy.
We've all made mistakes. Evil genius with me, Russell Kane. Listen on BBC Sounds.
On tonight's Front Row, his wife married Dr. Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew Broderick. Hearing on the West End stage for the first time, playing three married couples. And we also have a performance from Welsh musician Chris Rhodes as his wife with the Super Bali animals. Front Row, usual time is in just 7:15.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Joy to welcome you back to Just a Minute. Time to introduce you to the four magnificent and talented folk who are playing Just a Minute this week. They are Zoe Lyons, Teresa Chaponda, Kerry Godliman, and Paul Byrne. Please, one big cheer for all four of them. No format changes tonight. I'm still going to ask you to speak on a given subject for 60 seconds without hesitating, repeating, or deviating. And Zoe. Oh. Glory time. The subject is before social media. Can you speak for 60 seconds without hesitating, please, or deviating? Before social media, your time starts now. I am, of course, of an age where I remember a life before social media. It doesn't mean to say that I'm not now involved in social media. I'm quite a big hit on MySpace, I'll have you know. Things got done before social media, though. We didn't live in a world where people felt they had to catalogue every bowel movement or holiday snack or piece of food consumed. It was beautiful run, 26 seconds, wonderment. Oh, you tried.
It was a hesitation.
That's a great challenge, yes. 34 seconds, Paul, it was a correct challenge, so you've got before social media, and your time starts now.
I'm not involved with any kind of social media, so these phrases like Facebook and Instagram, I don't know what they mean, or indeed how they refer to what people do. I suppose before social media we can think that people would gather around houses and shout things through the letterbox or type on where you live. Now they can just tweet and something appears in your pocket as a message. I used to think as a comedian hecklers was something you wanted to avoid, but now thanks to modern technology you can carry them around with you wherever you go. It says people who hate your guts simply because you're having a better life than they are, or perceived to be so.
Before speaking as the whistle went, well, I may get points. Please certainly are with you. Oh, you've got a marvellous subject. I can't wait to hear about this. You've got the worst item in my wardrobe. Okay. The worst item in my wardrobe. 60 seconds, please, starting now.
The worst item in my wardrobe is a shirt that I have owned since childhood. It is red, and I used to put it on and transform into a superhero called Red Viper.
Harry, you ready? Yeah. The correct challenge. You've got the subject, 48 seconds. Worst item in my wardrobe, please start now.
I have had many bad items in my wardrobe. One standout thing was a jumper that was sleeveless and a polo, but it was all here.
Marvellous. I enjoyed that. Teresa, you challenge.
That was a highly entertaining stutter, stumble, everything. I'm really glad that ended. Education.
Do you know what? I'm going to give you that as a
Dramatic and delightful.
but I'm also going to make Kerry keep the subject because I just really enjoyed it. So, 34 seconds. Kerry's back with you starting now.
I've always wondered why things that are useful are not in fashion, like an umbrella hat, or something you can drink a beverage from, or one of those cushions you get when you're on a long haul flight. which I do not wear because I just stay awake. I do not want to look like a woman whose head is sticking out of my door.
Lisa, very close. I do not like it.
Yes, correct challenge. You've got the subject. So 15 seconds is back with you. The worst item in my wardrobe starting now.
The worst item on my wardrobe right now is shades because I live in Manchester and it is always raining. I never need shades upon.
Zoe, 2 shades. There were 5 seconds, Zoe. Well pounced. You can tell us in 5 seconds, please. The worst item in my wardrobe. The worst item in my wardrobe is a skeleton. I've got no idea how it got there. It's supposed to be very awkward when the people come round. Well done, Zoe. Speaking as Russell Went, you get the point. Now, Terry, let's see what you've got in store for you. Legend of the Silver Screen, as it goes. Patrick Swayze. Oh, no, Patrick. Can you speak for 1 minute on the absolute legend that was Patrick Swayze? The time starts now. I was so in love with Patrick Swayze when I was a child. My friend Katie said, come to my house and watch Dirty Dancing on our VHS video machine. I said to my mum, I'm going down the road to my mate's house to watch.
Lisa, sorry, repetition of house. Come over to my house. I went down to my mate's house.
Yes. Oh, you are right.
What's going to happen now?
I want another round.
Okay.
43 seconds, a correct challenge, Lisa. You get the subject, which is Patrick Swayze. The time starts now.
Now, I had the time of my life watching Patrick Swayze. I never felt that way before. His movies were so magnificent, and when he died, his ghost appeared in my room and asked to be moved in the cemetery because nobody put Swayze in the corner. When I go clubbing, often I end up at places where I'm not allowed in because somebody who looks a lot like Patrick Swayze is the bouncer of this roadhouse. And I also feel that To Wong Fu, thanks for everything, Patrick Swayze has always been one of my favorite actors, even in his latter years when he started to do less remarkable. A beautiful run, Paul, your challenge.
Well, it was a hesitation.
It was.
Dev did not touch anything stronger than beer, but he knew that the pharmaceutical taste of the average Neoite tended away from those substances that encouraged narcosis, introversion, and melancholy, traits the natives already possessed in massive hereditary infusions.
Damien Gilday reading from the audiobook of Wildcat. And Colin Barrett joins me now from an RT studio in Dublin. Colin, I'm reluctant to praise it from Wildcat because from the opening pages it has elements of suspense to it. Can you set the scene a little for listeners with as much as you want to give away?
Yeah, I mean, the premise is laid out pretty quickly in the first chapter, so I don't think I'm giving too much away by saying it's about a kidnapping of sorts. A young teenage boy named Darling, which is a local in town, is taken to the house way out in the countryside of a reclusive young man named Dev Hendrick, who lives alone and is pretty much left society. He's Dev's mother. And the story unfolds in two strands. One is from the perspective of Dev, and so we see what happens in his house in the days following the kidnapping of Dal. The other main character, the other main perspective, Dev's better, is Darl's girlfriend.
And she's rather young, isn't she? She's much younger than Dev.
Yeah, she's 17. Dev and the other Dev's 20s. Maybe 17, and she's basically follow her in Ghana as she attempts to find out what she's done.
Is that title Wild Houses a phrase you coined, or is it one you've overheard?
I heard it somewhere.
And what does it mean?
It's funny because it has a kind of melancholic and ironic air to it. It's like a session house, a madhouse, or a party house. So it's, when you go up to the neighboring places where, parents were absent or whatever, or parties there or whatever, so that your wild house, that's where you go, your wild house.
Yeah, in the past, you set the locations for your stories just slightly to the side of real places. You wrote about Glanville, not Glenville. Ballinaar is a real place, pretty precisely mapped out. Were you conscious of that change, or have you just decided to not bother with the map changes?
In my first stories I did, I said they were linked by being set in fictional towns that were unifying threads in the collection. And for whatever reason, I mean, people have some protective instinct, or actually some liberating instinct artistically, instead of in a fictional town. But as I've gone on writing over the years, and I probably ended up having to be more less and less, sort of life, I just felt more right. I felt more pressure to start naming places and setting things in places. As they become more artifacts of my memory rather than my experience, I guess. So I was writing it all memory and places.
And you need to top up. You live in Canada for a while. You need to kind of top up to write about it, because there's a very strong, vivid sense of place, both in your story and in this novel.
I feel like I do. Because I'm back now in Ireland, but I lived in Canada 7 years prior to this. And the pandemic happened, which I meant I couldn't get to in Ireland with my name for 2 years. Because I wanted to do another, but I felt like I missed it. I was able to still write actually in this book. I got so deep into it, I think the drafts that I was running on for memory, but I certainly feel like suffuses my writing.
You made them such a fertile ground for stories. I mean, in the past, you said that you had some doubts that people would be interested in young lads going to the church, which is, what happens quite a lot. But they obviously do have the university. What's that? Because the small town kind of represents small towns everywhere.
I mean, in many ways, you say anyone can be one of the students in a small town, and nothing that far off, anywhere in the world. I think that's what I discovered after, I've been to a lot of places all over the world and met readers, and they're like, I grew up in a place just like this, but they haven't seen this book. And, those I grew up in, I wondered about a literary bird, but I never could write it once I said about it.
In one of his stories, Barry has a line, perhaps the austerity of South Sligo had been mistaken of. Looking out at endless rain and wheat fields, you are not inclined to a curlicue or ornamental style. The character who says that is a writer. But do you agree? Can landscape shape a prose style?
I think so. Shapes temperaments. Shapes and temperaments within the landscape. I grew up in that kind of place. The paradox of a rural town is communities are very close. Everyone knows each other's business and claustrophobic in certain ways. But on the other hand, everyone is very far apart, certainly in the west of Ireland. My neighbour is down the road and, all the way down the road to get to the house. So it's both empty and yet very full in that. Everyone in the town, everyone in the village, and everyone's in different businesses at times. So it has that real pull to it. So the landscape is simultaneously then oppressive, but very beautiful, very freeing, and just totally informs my writing.
You made the point earlier that you give us access to the thoughts of only two characters. Everybody else will have to judge on the basis of what they say or what they do, but we get inside their Mickey's head. Does that decision about point of view arise as you write, or did you set out with that in mind?
It definitely came through as I worked on the drafts. I originally would have had a much longer book, and there was several different perspectives. So it wasn't just
Now, until today, viewers have only been able to hear the words of Jerry Adams spoken by an actor. We can say that's far enough.
我第一對嗰啲，有冇幫襯大個關係？
The climate is changing. Over the last 3 decades, the political climate across the island has shifted much more, not least because of the rise in Sinn Féin. When the broadcasting ban was removed, the party had no seats
邊面係咪下嗰度
in Dublin,
Yeah.
and only
What
about
happened?
10% of the votes in Northern Ireland.
It's
In May
something. And then she
2022,
fell.
the party won the most seats in the Devolved Assembly in Belfast.
Ushers in a new era, which equally
你講多次，即係點啊？
with an opportunity
Uh-huh.
to reimagine relationships in this society.
That was Michelle
She
O'Neill,
fell
Sinn
because of
Féin
something.
Vice President, who's vying to be the
What-
first
what-
Irish
what is
nationalist
something?
to become the first
Okay.
minister.
Because of something
Car
that
sharing was restored in
What happened?
Scotland. The Democratic Unionist Party
Oh, you didn't know
is
what
the
happened?
formation of a coalition to protest against trading arrangements after Brexit.
I think
Across the border, polls are suggesting the Sinn Féin president,
Dragon Rock.
Jeremy McDonald, is favourite to be the next Taoiseach, the big leader of the opposition in Dublin
What?
since
Say that again?
2020.
With Dragon Rock something.
New politics and better government, a new government, and I believe Sinn Féin will be the core of that.
I'm Chris Page, the BBC's Ireland correspondent. In this programme, I'm going to explore how Sinn Féin has grown over the last generation, how it's shaping its policies, and what the impact could be in the future of the UK, if the Irish Nationalist Party achieves its long-term ambition of taking power in both Northern Ireland and the Irish Republic. In 1921, Unionist politicians thought the new borders of Northern Ireland would provide for a perpetual Protestant majority, and that would secure the Union. But 100 years later, census figures showed that for the first time, there were more people from a Catholic community background than Protestant. There are some places in Northern Ireland where the demographic change is particularly prominent.
Crumlin is a village on the edge of Lough Neagh. It's just about 10 miles out of Belfast.
Chris Donnelly is a primary school head teacher and a political commentator. He's also a former Sinn Féin election candidate. We began our conversation outside Crumlin Orange Hall, a meeting place for the unionist organisation, the Orange Order. Chris knows this part of County Antrim well.
It would have been safe maybe 25 years ago, as still an area that would have been within an overwhelmingly unionist area of South Antrim. I moved here 2 decades ago. I remember driving in, there was a small petrol station on the edge of things. Now you have a big petrol station, the Euros Party, and the Tesco. So it's quite large, and the demographic change has meant that it would be overwhelmingly Catholic now. But unionism would be the DNA of the village.
Yeah, and outside the Orange Hall here, it's a familiar sight, I suppose, to many towns and villages in Northern Ireland, and you can see, of course, on the building itself, symbols of Britishness, and obviously tribute to King Charles, symbols of the end of his coronation last year. So you have symbols of Britishness, of unionism in this village, but when you look at the 3,000 River residents, now most of them would identify with Irish nationalism, almost certainly.
Now again, like so many villages, the north, the main street, so Orange Hall, it has multiple Protestant churches along it. Yes, big Catholic church outside, but it's only down the bottom when you turn left, you've not just the Catholic church there, you have an Irish language school, and you also have an Irish language centre there too.
You hold on.
You see those things pop up
Okay.
because they're on the periphery, where it's nationalist traditionally was in the north of Ireland. But really, as people have moved on, the era of power sharing, nationalism has taken its place alongside unionism.
Chris thinks Sinn Féin has adjusted to take advantage of evolving
你
population
翻到去使唔
patterns.
使食嘢
There are a number of
？OK，
factors that have contributed
食水果啊，翻
to the
翻
rise
去。
of Sinn Féin electorate.
點解啊？
Firstly, it's been the distance between today
你食水果啊？
and the time of ours. So if you look at Sinn Féin in the period right after the peace
你唔
process,
你唔中意食
a lot of their
blueberry
electorate
咩？講
would have been IRA veterans. Would have been no, and ex-prisoners. and
Grape，
things.
你唔中意
And
食薯？
whilst obviously that was something
你唔中意食嗰啲叫咩啊？提子啊？咁你留翻佢俾爸爸食咯，你
it
食
wasn't
其他嗰啲咯
necessarily。reflective of the entirety
提子
of the
grape，
potential voting communities for Sinn
你 like
Féin.
grape？
Because of
咁
course
你
there
唔中意
are
咩？
many, many more nationalists out there, particularly
Huh?
in constituencies like this. It's quite a middle class
Blackberry？
area. So
冇
now
Blackberry
we're at the
而家
point where Sinn Féin's two councillors for this
而家冇
constituency.
blackberry 啊呢度。
One is a school principal, the other is a nurse. You have to be able to pick people that are in tune with local constituents.
You don't like anything?
No, I don't like cheating.
Of course,
I like
so
everything.
it's very different.
You like everything?
Yes,
Remember.
their success in the South has increased bit about having representatives who go on to associate content. It's much more than that. It's that they
Music
have
law?
managed
Music
to
law?
party.
What am I saying? Law?
2024 is likely to be a big year for politics in the Republic of Ireland. It's 1 o'clock and listen to This Week on RTE Radio 1 with Justin McCarthy. Coming up on the programme, as we enter an election year, we're joined live in the studio by Antisha, and Fine Gael leader Neil
If
Varadkar.
what you want is
There are Council and European Parliament elections in June, and most commentators believe there will be a general election in the autumn. Last time around, Sinn Féin won the popular vote, but not the most seats. The result meant that the two centrist parties, which had alternated in power for the last century, came together in government. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael originally grew out of factions in the Irish Civil War in the 1920s. Here's Elaine Loughlin, who's political editor of the Irish Examiner newspaper.
Both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have basically been in power since the foundation of the state, and I think a lot of people traditionally would have voted for either Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael based on what side their family came down on in the Civil War. Now, in recent years, that tie to one or other of those parties is waning, and it has given Sinn Féin that wiggle room to get into.
There have been some strong exchanges in the Irish Parliament, but all between the coalition government and the opposition party, which is well ahead in the polls.
What we see here is a party that really just can't handle honest democratic debate. They won't answer questions.
On the last occasion.
People in Ireland want to know the truth. Justice must be served.
To date, SPEAR have not been prosecuted for their role in the UAE's assassination program, and the families of victims of the assassinations in southern Yemen have yet to receive justice. I still hope that the judicial system will get back to work and reopen my son's case, and that the person who shot him will be caught and brought to justice. From exile, Qatar is still investigating the assassinations in Yemen, which continue to this day. I have to stay strong for the sake of my children and to carry on my work. I have to pick myself up and start again.
This edition of Crossing Confidence was presented by Noel McCarthy. The producer was Alex Last, and it was the last in the current series of Crossing Confidence, which will return in the spring.
I'm Malcolm Gladwell, host of Revisionist History, a podcast where we dig into the overlooked and the misunderstood.
I made that judgment call spectacularly wrong.
Every episode re-examines something from the past, an event, person, an idea, even a song, and asks whether we got it right the first time.
I found myself having to clarify some basic details. Misassertions have been made about what had actually happened.
Revisionist History. Listen on BBC Sounds.
BBC News at 9 o'clock. Rishi Sunak has urged Iran to reduce tensions in the Middle East after 3 US troops were killed in a drone strike on a US base in Jordan. Washington and Bristol on Saturday night. Officers say 2 men aged 20 and 22 are being questioned about the deaths of Max Dixon and Mason Riss. A 44-year-old man and a 15-year-old boy were already in custody. Leicestershire Police has referred itself to the Independent Office for Police Conduct over its investigation into alleged assault by Valdo Calacane, which happened weeks before he killed 3 people in Nottingham last June. Relatives of the 3 victims of those attacks have been meeting ministers today, including Rishi Sunak in Downing Street. The Queen and the Princess of Wales have left the central London hospital where they have both been receiving treatment. Kate departed privately almost 2 weeks after she had an abdominal operation at the London clinic. The King, accompanied by the Queen, waved well wishes as he walked out 3 days after being admitted for treatment for an enlarged prostate.
Footage has been released of what's believed to be a first sighting of a newly hatched great white shark captured on film off the coast of California. The pup looked pure white, in contrast with adult white sharks, which are grey on top. BBC News.
And now with your wonderful property of Wyvernside, natural history from the inside out. Zoologist Ben Garrett and the veterinary surgeon Jess Fletch get under the skin of some of nature's most iconic animals with secrets to their success. Today, it's the turn of the bird, which subsists on a very beautiful night.
I know we pause, but I'm very, very excited about this animal today. I've seen these in the wild.
Have you?
Yeah, when I first saw this animal, it was very exciting because of some of the behaviours it does.
Oh, I can't wait.
I've been lucky enough to witness these majestic animals soaring over the Ugandan highlands. They normally inhabit some of the harshest mountainous regions across the world, from southern Europe to East Africa and right across India, with even the occasional sighting in the UK over the last few years.
It has absolutely enormous wings. You can see that just when I fold it up now, but I have a feeling when we open them up, we're going to be even more surprised.
Absolutely. Can we start by measuring?
Yes, sure, let's do that.
Sometimes called lammergeiers, the land vultures, or the ossifrage, bone breakers. These enormous birds are shrouded in myth. We're going to get to the bottom of these myths, and we're going to do that by delving inside.
2.7 meters.
From wingtip to wingtip.
Amazing.
We're saying wingtip to wingtip. We've got a bird. I think it's pretty obvious now we've got a bird. A big, big bird. This is a bird of prey. It's a bearded vulture.
It's amazing. New feathers, so I can see where I'm making my first incision. Some of these feathers are quite downing.
They've got quite a lot of insulation. They come from a fairly cold environment in a lot of their range. They're up in mountainous areas, so there is a lot of down hidden underneath.
And this is so we can see just how she's able to get quite large chunks of bone down there.
Yeah, so I'm going to do an incision down the length of the neck and just see what the structures in there are like. Because obviously if they're swallowing these huge bits of bone, we'd expect to have maybe quite a thickened esophagus or some kind of protection against these quite sharp objects that they're swallowing. This skin is so thin, it's just taking the lightest of feathery motions with the scalpel to go through it. You can immediately see the rings of the trachea under there.
It's always so impressive just how, I say delicate, but they're not. They're so tough, but so delicately constructed, aren't they? They are just, in some ways, paper thin.
Yeah, it's amazing how little separates those internal structures from the outside. Just a really thin layer of skin, not really anything else in top of that. So you can see all from here up the underside of the neck. So delicate. Look at that. Actually, it's not as thick as I expected. It's quite a thin, raw structure. Now, the esophagus in birds sometimes opens to sort of storage areas of the crop, but vultures don't have those, do they?
The bearded vulture doesn't have a crop, but all of the other predatory birds of prey do. So if you're one of the gyps vulture species and you're at an carcass guzzling as much meat as possible, the idea of the crop is that they can take advantage of that carcass and take as much food as possible, and then slowly move it down the digestive tract and digest it over a matter of hours. But the bearded vulture doesn't have a crop, so the food goes straight down the throat, down the esophagus, and into the pronotriculus.
I guess you don't want to be storing sharp-looking shards of bone.
No, you want to be able to get them straight down into the stomach, where your stomach acid starts to do your hard work.
I've exposed the two tubes here, and the esophagus actually is really super stretchy. You can see that it can open really, really wide, but it's not as thick walled as I thought it might be. But just put your hand in, see how stretchy it is.
Oh wow.
Put your whole hand, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm actually really surprised.
Wow, look at that.
It starts off with the width of, I guess, a 50 pence piece, and now you manage to stretch it open. I wonder, Jess, if it's possible on the inside to see whether you can get a scalpel through easily. I mean, worst case scenario, you swallowed a very sharp piece of bone. If it's fresh, it's shattered, you dropped it from a height. how easy is it to puncture?
Okay, let's see if it feels good. Oh, it does actually take quite a lot.
You're having to really push that, aren't you? But that wasn't easy.
Pretty tough, considering how thin it is.
And considering that's a scalpel trying to go through there,
Exactly, yeah.
that's interesting.
We're just approaching the thoracic cavity. And I know that an air sac sits around here, doesn't it, Holly? So I'm just ever so delicately trying to go through without pressing it, but something that's very difficult to do, isn't it? The air sacs are such delicate structures, they're very, very thin walls. They've got no musculature around them at all, so it's really hard to spot them.
And the air sacs are part of the respiratory system, aren't they? They don't breathe in the same way we do. When we look at theirs, we see a whole